Since 2021, when the European Union lifted the tariffs on bourbon, industry experts have seen a big opportunity to increase international sales. That's one reason Brindiamo Group, one of the largest bulk bourbon and whiskey suppliers in the world, is expanding its leadership with the hire of James Hewlette as International Sales Director.
I came out of a cutthroat real estate environment in New York City, and to be in an industry that was competitive but supportive, and the ethos really was a rising tide lifts all boats. And that was such a pleasure to find myself being involved in. And I came back to South Carolina and got a job with a distillery at the time called Tariffs Corporation. As I got into the industry and really started to learn about the barrel, what the barrel actually does, the chemistry behind it, why it's such an important component in the whiskey, not just American whiskey, but Scotch whiskey, Irish whiskey, I mean, any whiskey product, why it's such an important part of that maturation element.
So I've known James for a long time. His family, his father Earl, purchased the O.Z. Tyler distillery when it was decrepit and everything, and rebuilt it all to what it is now. The Bardstown Bourbon just bought it. And he has stayed in the industry, was one of the top salespeople at MGP, which is a publicly traded bulk ingredient supplier, very big in the bourbon and whiskey space. And I reached out to James and said, "Will you come be a pirate?" And he said, "Absolutely."
So my focus, in terms of my role with Brindiamo, is going to be working with both American companies who need, to continue to purchase or looking for aged or new fill barrels, as well as export markets and identifying key customers, initially strategically, who need American whiskey to either continue to support brands they already have, or they're looking to, start to get on the ride of American whiskey, and we're the right place for them to come and partner with.
Irish whiskey is off the charts, growing tremendously. Most brown goods are growing really, really well. Scotch has been around and growing for a long time, before the U.S. was ever founded. So, I think the domestic market is great. The international opportunity can actually be bigger than what's happening here in the U.S. And if you look at things like Jack Daniel's, some of these brands actually do more business overseas than in the United States.
You're starting to see a decent amount of craft distilleries opening up in Europe, Canada, Australia, Japan. So internationally, craft markets are starting to really come into play. They are, in terms of size and amount, behind the United States. But it's certainly an area of growth, and I believe will continue to be.
Lots of interesting stuff, and it's why we today own some Irish whiskey and own some Scotch, and we've brought rum over, we've brought Canadian whiskey. We do lots of different things because it's not just a bourbon environment, right? There's a broad portfolio that we want to be able to cover and offer on just a global scale.